Walls aren't just built to keep things out. They're built to say something. About fear, about power, about pride, wealth, and imagination. In this episode, we're exploring 8 remarkable walls from around the world and throughout history. Some protect, some divide, and some simply demand to be seen. But all of them reveal one thing: what a civilization values enough to build a wall around. So, let's get into it. Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China wasn't just built to keep enemies out, it was built to show them exactly who they were dealing with. Spanning deserts, mountains, and centuries, the wall is less of a structure and more of a monument to obsession. It's said to stretch over 13,000 miles, although historians still debate the number. What's not up for debate? The human cost. Millions of soldiers, peasants, and prisoners worked and died to lay every brick. Some were even buried inside it. It's less a wall and more a tomb with a view. Yes, it was meant to stop Mongol invasions, but it also had another message. We are the center of the world and we'll prove it in stone. Every emperor who added to it wasn't just defending China, they were branding it, turning defense into a megaphone of imperial ambition. And here's the interesting part: it didn't always work. Raiders still broke through, dynasties still fell. The wall didn't stop history, it just stood there and watched. But that's the paradox. The Great Wall might be the world's greatest failure and its greatest legacy. Because it's not remembered for what it kept out, it's remembered because it still stands. And in the end, that is its power. Hadrian's Wall. What does an empire do when it realizes it can't conquer everything? It builds a wall and calls it a message. Hadrian's Wall, slicing across the wilds of northern Britain, wasn't just a barrier. It was Rome admitting that this was far enough. Stretching 73 miles coast to coast, it was less about keeping people out and more about drawing a psychological line. One side, civilization, order, Rome. The other, the untamed unknown. Barbarians, they said. But really, locals who just refused to bow. Commissioned by Emperor Hadrian in 122 AD, the wall had forts, watchtowers, and garrisons, basically an ancient border patrol. It was border control before borders were even a thing. But don't think of it as just stone and soldiers. This was a statement in limestone, a power move carved into the earth. And ironically, it didn't stop raids, it didn't stop the rebellion, but it did redefine power, not through expansion, but through restraint. Hadrian didn't want more land, he wanted stability, a secure edge to an empire that was cracking under its own weight. So while the Roman Empire eventually fell, the wall stayed, silent, stubborn, and still standing. Because sometimes the most powerful move an empire can make is admitting where it ends. Wall of Ston. What's worth more than gold? In medieval Croatia, the answer was salt, the white gold that powered economies, preserved food, and funded empires. And in the tiny town of Ston, about 55 kilometers from Dubrovnik, salt was life. Though not within Dubrovnik's city walls, Ston fell under its rule and protection. So they built a wall. Not a modest town barrier, but a 5.5-kilometer stone serpent that slithered over hills and valleys. And you know why? To guard the precious salt pans like a medieval Fort Knox. This was not of borders, but of trade. A wall that shielded wealth without flashing it. Archers didn't just watch for invading armies, they watched for thieves trying to pocket a pinch of salt. And this wasn't just functional, this wall was formidable, built with the same meticulous care as the city walls of Dubrovnik itself. Today, the Wall of Ston is one of the longest preserved fortifications in Europe, yet few outside Croatia know it exists. Quiet, weathered, but still standing, just like the town it protected. Because sometimes the fiercest battles aren't fought for land or glory, but for the humble crystal that kept entire civilizations running. Sacsayhuaman, Peru. Suppose you had to build a wall so strong it could survive centuries of earthquakes without using a single drop of mortar. Now suppose you had no cranes, no wheels, and your stones weighed up to 100 tons each. Welcome to Sacsayhuaman, the jaw-dropping Incan fortress above Cusco, Peru, where ancient engineers didn't just build walls, they defied logic. Each stone is carved with such eerie precision that even a sheet of paper can't slide between them. They weren't stacked, they were fit, like puzzle pieces designed by giants. And here's the interesting thing. No blueprints, no modern tools, no written instructions, just raw human ingenuity and a mastery of stonework we still can't fully explain. It's the kind of construction that makes modern engineers whisper, "But how?" Some say aliens, others say it's lost technology. But maybe the real story is even more fascinating. A civilization so in tune with its environment that it didn't need cement or steel. It had skill and time. Sacsayhuaman wasn't just built to last, it was built to awe. And while much of the Incan Empire was erased by conquest, these walls remain, immovable, uncracked, and totally undefeated. Because sometimes the most mind-blowing mystery is realizing that the ancients were way ahead of us. Atlantic Wall. Imagine building an unbreakable wall stretching from the cliffs of Norway to the beaches of France. Now imagine it failing in a single day. This was the Atlantic Wall, Nazi Germany's grand plan to make fortress Europe impenetrable during World War II. Thousands of bunkers, millions of landmines, endless rows of tank traps and artillery, an engineering beast meant to stop the inevitable. An Allied invasion. It was terrifying, it was vast, and it was a monument to paranoia. But here's the thing, walls built out of fear don't hold up well against courage. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy. Despite Hitler's obsession and thousands of miles of defenses, the Atlantic Wall crumbled under human will, strategy, and sacrifice. The myth of Nazi invincibility shattered, not because the wall was weak, but because history doesn't respect concrete. Today, what's left of the Atlantic Wall sits rusting and cracked, half swallowed by sand dunes and time. A grim reminder that no matter how massive the barrier, you can't wall off the future. Because the strongest walls aren't the ones made of steel or stone. They're the ones built on purpose, unity, and resolve. And in 1944, that's exactly what came crashing through. Berlin Wall. What happens when a wall doesn't just divide land, but divides lives? The Berlin Wall wasn't just concrete and barbed wire. It was ideology in physical form. A cold, grey scar slicing through a vibrant city. East versus West. Communism versus capitalism. Control versus freedom. Built overnight in 1961, it didn't just keep people out, it trapped them in. Families were torn apart, lovers separated, dreams ended with a thud against cold stone. The East German regime called it an anti-fascist protective barrier, but everyone else knew the truth. It was a prison wall. And yet, even the most oppressive walls can't crush the human spirit. People tunneled under it, flew over it, crashed cars through it, crafted hot air balloons to float past it. The wall was meant to stop movement, but it sparked resistance. Every brick became a symbol, not of power, but of desperation. Then, in 1989, it happened. The impossible. People didn't flee the wall, they danced on it. They cheered, climbed, and chipped it away with hammers. What was once a symbol of fear became a stage for joy. Because sometimes, the greatest thing a wall can do is fall. and remind the world that even the strongest divides can crumble when people dare to cross them. US-Mexico border wall. What does it mean to build a wall in the age of drones, surveillance towers, and biometric scanners? The US-Mexico border wall isn't just concrete and steel. It's a political Rorschach test. To some, it's a symbol of national security. To others, it's a monument to division. Stretching across deserts, rivers, and rugged terrain, this wall is a patchwork of old barriers, new tech, and even unfinished sections that vanish into the sand. But the real story, it's less about the wall itself and more about what we believe it will do. Will it stop crime, trafficking, and illegal crossings? Or is it a high-priced illusion, a $15 billion band-aid for a wound that needs policy, not fencing? Because where the wall rises, people still tunnel, they still scale, they still dream. And in towns split by steel, families wave through the slats, close enough to touch, yet still oceans apart. This wall doesn't just divide countries, it divides opinions, generations, and realities. It asks a hard question. Are we building a safer nation or just drawing a bigger line in the sand? Because when a wall becomes a symbol, it stops being about what it blocks and starts being about what it represents. And that's a border no blueprint can measure. Chauvet Cave Wall. Imagine the flicker of firelight dancing across stone. You're 30,000 years in the past, deep in the heart of Chauvet Cave, France. There are no cities, no borders, no written language, but on the walls, stories. Not words, images. Horses in mid-gallop, mammoths with curved tusks, lions prowling like ghosts. It's not random doodling, it's movement, emotion, life, etched in ochre, charcoal, and instinct. Long before we built walls to divide, we used them to connect. The artists weren't just surviving, they were feeling, observing, and expressing. They layered animals over each other like animation frames. They shaded with precision. Some even used the natural curves of the rock to make the creatures pop in 3D. This wasn't just a cave. It was a gallery, a temple, maybe even a theater of the soul. And it stayed hidden for over 30,000 years, until 1994, when explorers cracked it open and found the oldest known art on Earth. Before fences marked property, before stone walls protected castles, there were these walls. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a wall can do isn't to block out the world, it's to bring us into one, together, in awe, across time. And that's a kind of magic no civilization has ever bettered. From ancient fortresses to modern borders, walls have never been just about keeping people in or out. They're reflections of our deepest hopes, fears, and priorities. Whether carved with precision, painted with meaning, or built out of fear, every wall tells a story. Some crumble with time, others evolve, but all leave a mark. The real question isn't just why we build them, it's what part of ourselves we expose when we do. If this video hooked you, then do watch the video of 8 bridges. These crossings aren't just about transport, they're packed with border disputes, military secrets, and high-stakes politics. Each one reveals how something as simple as a bridge can shape global power plays. So, go watch it now.